everyone, and welcome back to a year in the TikTok of the Jock Scientist. So I believe we left off with this one. So we're going to go ahead and get through as much as we can of the last few videos of hers. I'm hoping to get through both of these lines and then like maybe halfway, and that way next time, next week even, we can just finish her off. Um, so far she has not uploaded anything new, and from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like she has deleted anything else. So, or TikTok took something else. I don't know which one it was, but regardless, let's go ahead and jump into it.
And stuff, and I see like these really big girls like killing it, and I'm like, I just want to be that. I don't want to change the way
If you are looking to reframe exercise as a form of self-care rather than a punishment for behaviors, if you want to uncouple diet culture from your fitness routine, let me give you some questions to ask yourself. Would this be enjoyable if I were not focused on calories burned? If you take calories away as a factor from exercise, because there's no way that you can actually know how many your body is burning unless you're hooked up to sophisticated equipment, would you still want to do it? Would I still do this exercise if I knew it would not change my weight or appearance? Am I pushing myself hard to celebrate achievements or punish certain behaviors? How often can I realistically exercise in my life right now? What movement supports that amount? And you're going to need to revisit this one because it's going to constantly change. What activity do I want to make time for? A lot of us in fitness say, do what you like because then you do it forever. This is going to help you figure that out without the influence of diet culture.
So I'm gonna go back to her list for a moment. Let's see if we can get like a clearer look. There we are. I actually don't necessarily have a problem with this if you are someone that is exercising as a form of punishment. There is probably some issues going on with your mental health right there, because I agree exercise should not be a form of punishment. The thing that I feel though that is an issue there is that she's also kind of conflating. Like sometimes I will plan on having a certain dessert and then exercise to afford calorically that dessert. I don't view that as a punishment for the future dessert that I'm getting. I view it as a transaction. I am exercising now to have the cake later. It's different from punishment. Sometimes, yes, I've eaten something, I'm like, oh, okay, I want to burn off those calories. I am paying myself calorically back for the cake that I ate. Like, it's not necessarily a term, and not everyone that exercises to compensate for the food that they've eaten is doing it as a form of punishment. Some of us just have a transactional mindset, which I don't think is wrong. I also don't think that it's wrong necessarily to exercise based on an activity that's calories burned. But I would advise that if you hate the activity that you're doing and you're only doing it because it burns so many calories, then it's not sustainable. Would I still do this exercise if I knew it would not change my weight/appearance? Now, this one I don't think is fair at all, because I do like certain activities to build up muscles in certain areas, because like I just want to have a more muscular body, and especially with my arms where I have like jiggly arm fat, I do want that firmed up. I don't think that that's wrong. If it's changing my appearance and I don't mind doing the exercise, granted she's framing this as a way of self-care versus appearance goals, so I understand where that's coming from as well. I just don't like the framing that if you're doing it for appearances, it is automatically wrong. I think it's okay to have a mix of both. I am doing like the hybrid calisthenics workouts, as I've told you, which is all body weight exercises. And what I love about them is that I can do them even if sometimes I get tendonitis in my elbows and stuff, and I can still do push-ups for the most part, if even with like some tendonitis type symptoms, without it hurting. But that's not necessarily my favorite activity, but I still want to work on my arms. And so the body weight activities are better for me during those times. Like there's a matter of, I don't think that you have to necessarily enjoy the exercise. I think it's okay to just not hate the exercise. And sometimes even if you hate something, if you want the results bad enough, as long as you're not hurting yourself, I really don't see the issue. Am I pushing myself hard to celebrate achievements or punish certain behaviors? I don't For me, neither one of those is applicable to anything I do. I don't exercise to celebrate anything, but I don't do it to punish myself either. I do it to push myself to see, like, work on extending what I can do, and I think that's perfectly fine. So I don't understand that. How often can I realistically exercise in my life right now? What movement supports that amount? So one, just about any movement can support any level of exercise that you have time for. It's just a matter of scaling down the time that you spend on it. Like I said, I started doing strength training 5 minutes a day, 3 times a week, and it's built up over time. I think it's perfectly fine to start off with just a few minutes a day, a few reps a day, and then build from there. And you can often um, adjust your life to add more time based on the amount of energy that you're able. Because I have a shit ton more energy now that I've been working out for almost a year. No, over a year at this point, because I started in March of 2023. So I've been doing strength training for a while, and it's very much increased my energy levels. So there is that. There is also how often can I realistically exercise in my life right now? If you are someone that is constantly on the run and constantly doing one, your cardio might very well be taking care of itself depending on your job. But for strength training, you can do it either on your breaks, sometimes during slow times at work. I did that, and it's fine as long as sometimes you can either hide it easily or your coworkers and boss are fine with it. So either one. I don't know. I think it's about you can steal more movement and you can steal more exercise in different moments depending on where you are and depending on I mean it just kind of depends. I think it's okay to get a little creative with that. And what activity do you want to make time for? I think this is good if you're framing it as in order to get fit, you have to make time to get fit. Having an activity that you enjoy helps that. But the general idea is there as well. If you want to get fit, you just have to make time, you know? So I don't necessarily have a problem with anything she said. I think it's just a little black and white compared to what a lot of people who are at least in the fitness sphere actually do. And even not even in the fitness sphere, just people that want to work out more. There's more helpful ways of looking at exercise than what she's presented here.
Because nobody admits anything they've done! Even over coffee from a pot, none of you want to touch! You're fucking done!
All right, that's enough of that sound. But it's the caption says what it sounds like in my head when I'm trying to practice body positivity, joyful movement, and a diet-free life, but I work in a 9 to 5. But I work a 9 to 5 in a large office. Honestly, this is one of those. So this is just one of the things that I'm gonna tell you. You have to be okay being the weird one. Like, and this goes not just for like her body positivity or whatever, but this goes if you're trying to get fit. There's a lot of people that are like, oh no, just, but so and so brought donuts, but so, and there's gonna be pressure in order to do anything. Okay, so I'm just gonna, as someone who has always kind of been an outsider, who has always kind of been an outcast, not to say that anyone has been particularly mean to me. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that I adjust my personality at work to be as bland as possible for the most part. I've gotten a little bit more comfortable at one of the schools since I've worked there for so long. But in general, I just try to maintain an amiable demeanor to get along with my coworkers. And then I kind of do my own thing. And that means that I don't necessarily go to the lunchroom to socialize. I very much like, especially since I work with kids, I like the quiet time lunch in my car. I do. And if I eventually get my own classroom, I'll probably eat in my classroom. And then with any extra minutes that I have, I might do push-ups. I might practice speed cubing or whatever the fuck that I have there. It's my unpaid time, my lunch and my breaks. So, or actually breaks are paid, but still it's my time. It's my time. I'm not necessarily going to worry about socializing because it doesn't appeal to me. And as such, yes, I am a bit of the odd one at work. And I don't necessarily, you don't have to, you're not at work to make friends. And I think to an extent it can be dangerous to make friends at work because you don't know people's motivations. I think it greatly depends on the job though. My job I think is pretty supportive. I really do like all my coworkers. I'm just introverted and I need the downtime in my workday in order to best perform my job. So you kind of just have to be okay being the weird one. And that means sometimes my coworkers do catch me doing push-ups during like quiet time at the library. I'm doing this very tedious task. I take breaks and I do 5 push-ups here, 5 push-ups there. My supervisor has no issue with it, and if anyone comes in and sees me, well, yeah, I'm just doing a few push-ups occasionally. It has been commented on how I'm like apparently really gung ho for fitness, which I don't really think that I am, but it's just the bookshelves, because they're meant for kids, are at the perfect height for me, and it breaks up the monotony of some of my tasks. So if you, and I say all that to get back around to where if you are practicing body positivity and you don't want to engage in diet talk, you have to be comfortable being the weird one. And if that means someone's having diet talk and you don't want to participate in it, you politely excuse yourself. You can't expect others to change or view you as normal or view you as average or whatever, or include you if your general personality, your interests, or your goals goes against the norm. It's just part of human nature, and you have to be comfortable being the weird one. I was the weird kid all through school, so I've become, and even in my homeschool group, I was still the weird kid. So it is what it is. You just have to be comfortable being weird, and I use the term weird very loosely. You're just outside the general culture of the place that you're in, and that's okay. But that's not the fault of others. That's you, and you have the choice to either conform or pursue what you want. It kind of depends on what's important to you.
Ladies, it's time to lose weight. When you have to sit and cook, it's time to... I have a question for overweight women. What's your excuse? A lot of women that gain weight in a relationship and simply just give themselves up. A lot of overweight people that go on the airplane and you skip the line. Ladies, what's the point of having pretty privilege and can't use it? If you're extremely pretty in your face and you have an overweight...
I thought gym bros were the ones who were most obsessed with plus size women on this app, but I don't know. You might take the title here. What fat woman took your man? That's very heteronormative of me. I apologize. Maybe she was the one who broke your heart. Because I don't know any other reason why fat women live in your head rent free. I also don't understand why you're asking all these questions when you clearly don't want the answers to them. Have you considered minding your own business?
Ladies,
So this is one thing. I find this woman that she's stitching abrasive, and her presentation of the topics unhelpful. Like I think kind of view this woman a little bit as almost like the other side of the coin a little bit of fat acceptance, in that she may have a few good points about, if you're having to sit to cook, then it's time for a wake up call, but then she's so abrasive about it and kind of demeaning about it that it's unhelpful to the conversation. That being said, Jock Scientist isn't any better, because she throws in, rather than addressing the points about anything that this woman says, she's like, what woman stole your man, or did she break your heart, or why do fat women live in your head rent free? Like it's all kind of, again, she's throwing attack language right back. I think it's worth noting. I think the one thing that Jock Scientist did well was noting that this woman turned off her comments, meaning that she doesn't want to have a conversation. She's just throwing her opinion out there, which is what a lot of fat acceptance users do as well. So again, same coin, opposite sides. But this kind of mind your own business, she's putting an opinion out there. I mean, I think Jock Scientist has every right to criticize her, especially her points. The whole mind your own business thing just never really works for me, because she's in her own sphere. She's on her own TikTok page. You were the one that stitched her. Could she mind her own business? Yes. Could you mind your own business? Yes, but no one does. It's social media. Why would you go out into the public square, engage in different areas of discourse, and then tell people to mind their own business? Some people are going to have radically different opinions than you. I still don't really have a problem with what Jock Scientist said here, mostly because, um, just as this woman is fully able to voice her own opinion, so is the Jock Scientist. It's just one of those things where it's like, do you realize that this is kind of the pot calling the kettle black, just on the opposite side of the spectrum?
Body shaming has never left this app, but I have noticed a uptick recently in more like high profile instances of it. And there are like two types of people who make pathetic, unwarranted comments about fat people simply existing. It's either completely anonymous or their entire personality and feed is gym stuff. And I stumbled across a user who's the perfect example of this.
You can't really make a gym rat feel bad about themselves. What are you going to tell them? That their body sucks and they look awful? They'll probably agree and hit another set.
Now, don't get too excited because they have not become self-aware.
You can't get in our heads. We're already in them and choosing self-improvement, while you dive into a pool of Cheeto.
Toxic fitness culture, wrapped up in a pretty little bow, just for you and me. It is this unearned sense of social entitlement because despite constantly working on themselves, they are so full of self-hatred and self-loathing that when they witness someone who has a body type that is their worst fear loving themselves, they have literal tantrums. Losers! Body shaming has never...
I swear, I can't verify all of these, but let's see. I just want to see her picture, so I can't verify these two. I don't know what the body shaming blah 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 was, but this woman, I remember this time last year around September. I remember the controversy around this woman. Now, several of those videos have now been taken down, so I just never dove back into it. But this woman had made a video with that I'm hot and I'm 100% glorifying obesity, or what, you guys know which one I'm talking about, right? That sound. Someone couldn't stitch that TikTok, but they commented on it and I think tagged her and criticized her for glorifying obesity. She then came on saying, I'm just living my life and people are attacking me. So there was, I think, was it Michelle McDaniel that went into this when it happened? Someone went into this when it happened and it showed the series of TikToks and how they actually laid out. And she claimed victim when someone was responding to a TikTok that they put out. And it was one of those situations where you put out a controversial opinion, someone took issue with it, and now you're crying and playing victim. I can't verify these two. I'm not familiar with these ones. But there is that. Now, when we are talking about this woman, and saying, you can't really bully a gym rat if you say your body's trash, we'll probably agree with you. That doesn't sound like a great mindset either, although I understand the mindset. I understand the, and I think it kind of ties into a level of perfectionism, that it would be more helpful if you learned how to break free and focus more on the journey rather than the destination, which is where I've been trying to recenter myself for. It's about the journey. It's about learning how to incorporate fitness and clean eating in your life in a way that is sustainable and that you enjoy, even if you don't enjoy it as much as you did the fatty foods and stuff. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you're eating so clean and healthy that you go back to those really greasy foods and they don't taste as good as they did before. And that is all something that can happen. I don't really understand this unearned sense of social entitlement. I don't understand where she's coming from with that. What does that mean? I would love to know what she means by that exactly. And let's see, because despite constantly working on themselves, literally just goes to Crunch Fitness every day. It's their hobby. You don't need to shit on them for it. They are full of self-hatred and self-loathing. Given the mindset that last creator, the fitness creator that we saw presented, I can see how that would be interpreted as self-hatred and self-loathing. And perhaps that is wrapped up in there, but I think it's a little bit more perfectionist with, there might be self-hatred, self-loathing undertones, but that's not like the primary emotional thing. At least that's not how I read it. But then for her to end this, where she talks about them having self-hatred and self-loathing, and that's why they lash out, and that they see people just living in their own bodies, loving it, and then they throw tantrums. I have yet to see a fat creator that is literally just living in their body, that is literally just having fun, doing other things, and they happen to be fat. Every fat creator I've seen that gets any significant level of hate, especially from fitness talk, are also the ones that have the I'm glorifying obesity sound, that promote not trusting doctors, and that it's natural to be fat, and that fat is being 100% genetic. All of those things, I have yet to see a fat creator, not saying that it doesn't exist, but I've yet to see a fat creator 100% just living in their own body, going about their daily life, and receiving the level of hate that FAs do. And then the fact that she ends with loser and this whole childish taunt. Again, nothing more than an attack. That's not even an ad hominem attack. You're just name calling. What the fuck? It completely degrade. Like, she could have a potential point here and a point for conversation if she didn't devolve to childish taunts. That's the thing. I know a lot of you hate the jock scientist. I'm not a fan of her. I don't hate her personally, but I am so unbelievably frustrated by her childish behavior and her taunts, when, especially when responding to actual like places of discussion with just this this shitty attitude. I don't even know how to define it, but it's the calling people losers, saying they lack reading comprehension, calling them idiots, and multiple FAs do this, but I've seen it particularly egregious with the jock scientist and shit Marissa says. Like, those are like, Soliloquy did it too. Like, Fat Sapphic Bro did it too. They primarily played more victim though than name called others, at least from my memory. But they name called others just as much too. And these are like prominent figures in the FA space. So my question to fat acceptance people, like, you say you want to be accepted. You are not going to be accepted when prominent people in your movement are incapable of having a respectful discussion. When you guys constantly resort to name calling and ad hominem attacks, no one wants to fucking listen to you. You are that obnoxious kid on the playground that wonders why they don't have any friends. That's what it reminds me of. When you are this abrasive and you're this rude to other people, how can you wonder why they don't want to listen to you? Why they don't want to acquiesce to some of your requests? I don't want to acquiesce to someone's request who calls me an idiot. I don't want to acquiesce to anyone whose request was preceded by calling me a loser. Why the fuck would I want to do that? Like, you guys fight back, but you guys can fight back and argue points of fitness talk and other creators without being rude. Honestly, like, I'm not saying that fitness talk doesn't do it too. I'm sure it does. I just see it far less often than I see fitness people going, what you're doing is dangerous, what you're doing, whatever. They're talking about the rhetoric that is being spewed, not about the person themselves. Where FAs, it seems to be reversed.
Suggestions on how to like start.
So, the comment says, weightlifting helped me so much. Honestly, I couldn't believe how fast I saw results and my bone density improved. And then the caption says, exercise physiologist Stitch incoming.
Doing weightlifting specifically for bone health.
The term weight-bearing exercise is incredibly confusing. In theory, we're always weight-bearing because weight is quite literally the force of gravity on an object. Mass times gravitational acceleration. Thank you to my professors who beat that into my head. Why is it that weight-bearing with body weight exercise may not be building tissue in the body the way that you want it to? Adding resistance of some form or another to an exercise that you're performing is just adding more force on the body. Thus, your body has to recruit more muscle fibers, more tension to push back against it. That increased force signals all of the tissues, muscle, tendon, and bone to respond by creating more tissue. This is not me saying body weight is bad or ineffective. I actually think you should do both because body weight is great for increasing your functional movement and increasing your proprioception. Weight bearing is great at stimulating the need for building more tissue.
I so wish, I'm leaving this in here because I wish I saw more of this from the jock scientist. It's helpful, it's not condescending, and it sticks to the facts. I think that was well handled. It had plenty of information. Clearly she is in her lane on this point in particular. And this is one of those things where it's like, I think the jock scientist does have knowledge that a number of people do not, even those in fitness spaces, not don't necessarily understand the science the way that she does because she has specialized training and education in this. I wish I saw more of this. I wish I saw more of these how to incorporate physical activity in a way that is comfortable and that will provide you with results that you're looking for. I wish we saw more of this because I loved this TikTok. I thought it did an excellent job explaining the concepts as well as, and I didn't read them, but there were some examples that she used throughout for additional resistance and that sort of thing. I thought it was well put together. I really liked this TikTok and I wish she would make more like this.
Oh yeah, those people find their way over my videos.
Okay, so the comment that she's pointing to, so there's a comment. Okay, so there's a couple of comments here. There's one that she's actually like citing up in the corner that was used to start this video, and it says, "You should see her comment section. It's gross with a bunch of dudes wishing death on fat people." And then one of the comments that she's like actually pointing to that she says she gets on her videos is, "You guys are the same people that complain we don't have Medicare for all with 3/4 Americans overweight or obese. This country can't afford it." That's a political discussion worth talking about. I don't think that it's obesity alone as the reason why we don't have Medicare for all. I think that's an oversimplification. But even so, I want to hear the rest. I think it's beside the point that she's getting to, so I want to hear the rest of what she has to say.
All the time. This incredibly normal behavior. This is all on one video. And it's so funny because they always say stuff like this. I'm working on my mindset.
Oh yeah, so it's a lot of comments by the same person saying they're working on their mindset. You're promoting something about promoting body positivity when I think it's like y'all just need to work out or something. But this guy posted several comments on the same video. I don't necessarily think that's wrong, especially if he's making points, but let's hear the rest of what she has to say.
Are you? And like I said on the previous video, there are two exact types of people that do this on social media. It's either like 98% really cool videos of them working out. They're completely anonymous. And anonymous includes those of y'all who just make video game edits and then run around on this app being an asshole. Exercising on a consistent, regular basis has so many benefits for you. And if you had interacted with any of my other content that wasn't just about body inclusivity, you would know that. I am an exercise physiologist. But you know what else is really good for you? Reading, learning a new skill, getting involved in your community. Thanks to this idea that having a certain body type makes you morally superior to others, it tends to only be one type of person who's weird and aggressive about their hobbies. Oh yeah.
So here's the thing. Were the comments unnecessary? Possibly, but you did put your opinion out there. You have to kind of expect people to conflict with that opinion. As long as they're not being absolutely toxic about it, and by toxic, I mean threats and putting you down. You say, like, I'm an exercise physiologist, if you would just look at my other videos, and I will give her that she has some really interesting videos on exercise physiology. It is her line of work, and she does have some really nice videos. We've covered several of them on this channel, and I think that they're well done. However, that content tends to be overshadowed by her bad takes, her condescension, and her name calling. There are multiple issues with her videos that can overshadow the good advice and the explanations that she gives because she comes off as so unlikable. For me, her unlikableness comes almost entirely from her name calling. It pisses me off so much. But I don't know. Like, yeah, those other things are good for you as well. Reading, learning a new skill, picking up a new hobby, being part of your community. That's all great too. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't exercise and like get your body in shape. By getting your body in shape, you can do more of those other things because you'll have the energy and it does help with um cognitive functioning and all of that. But the talking about having a certain body type makes you morally superior. Again, I do not understand where this comes from in the fat acceptance movement. It's not about being morally superior. It's about people giving advice that may very well be unwanted. But then also you guys trying to make excuses. I think that's where people get really frustrated is your excuses for your weight. Now, if you just want to be fat and you want to be left alone, that's fine. But there's a difference between just wanting to be fat and left alone and wanting to be fat and accepted and being seen as beautiful and for people to believe that it's 100% genetic and out of your control. Those are different things. I am perfectly fine. If you want to be fat, you want to be left alone, and you're going to eat what you're going to eat, and you don't want to exercise, and you just want to be left alone, and you're going to do your makeup tutorials or your mukbangs or whatever, fine. I honestly, you want to eat yourself to death. I believe that is your right. I do. I think it's your right to eat yourself into oblivion if that is what you want to do. That being said, it is not my responsibility to believe you when you say that you have no control over your weight, because it's bullshit. It's bullshit. You and I both know it's bullshit. And if you want to live in Delulu land, that's your choice, but I don't have to join you there. When you then complain about airplane seats not being big enough or chairs with arms that you can't fit into, I don't feel sorry for you. I don't feel sorry for you. It's not genetic. Your fat is not genetic. And these issues that you're having in public spaces are your fault. That's where the issue comes in. It's not a matter of, I know I'm morally superior because I'm working on getting a smaller body. No. It's that I don't want to hear you complain about something that is within your control to fix.
This is precisely why I never take
So the comment says going for a walk in America and the person's clearly walking on the side of a freeway.
a single health expert seriously if they have never once mentioned the social determinants of health. I'm going to come at this from the angle of purely adding exercise into your life. A lot of people in the fitness industry will prescribe walking as an option to start moving your body more because it is a fabulous entry-level movement if you live somewhere that has the infrastructure to support that. Because unfortunately, there are tons of jurisdictions that look exactly like that throughout America, making it not safe to walk, let alone enjoyable. It forces you to then join a gym, which costs money, or buy equipment to have at home, which costs money, or buy a plan from you, a health expert, because you lost 60 pounds, which costs money. You have the option of free content that's available. However, you have to be able to set aside time to do so, which our capitalist infrastructure hardly makes easy for anybody. Unhealthy lifestyles are often a result of systemic issues. Individual approaches to it ain't really working.
So there is a level of truth to what she's saying. A lot of what she's saying though can also there are also workarounds if you're willing to be creative with how you approach things. The not feeling safe and it not being enjoyable to go out for a walk, I completely understand that. I grew up in a neighborhood that did not have any sidewalks, but we had a fair amount of traffic. Dogs would regularly like break free from their yards and just be roaming. And then on top of that, there was a house about 2 blocks down from me that was known as the sex offender house, and we got like regular notifications because it was like where the state would put them, um of anywhere from level 1 to level 3 sex offenders. Like it I was not comfortable going out for a walk in my neighborhood. So yeah, there's that level. Something a workaround for that, and it does get your heart rate up, is pedal jogging, and you can do it in your home, and you don't need any equipment for it. You literally just do it in a spot on the floor, and you can do it while you're watching TV or playing video games. I do it regularly. That is an option. When it comes to the plan, she mentioned a number of ones to buy. Honestly, some of the best ones that I've found are actually free. I did use the Run with Hal app for a while, and it helped get me started with running, but I've since canceled my subscription to that because I don't use it anymore. I don't really need it. It's not serving a purpose for me anymore. But I have used Hybrid Calisthenics Fitness Plan as well as Movement by David, who both have free options. As she mentioned, there are some free options, but you have to make time for it. The thing is about making time for it is when it comes to like cardio and the pedal jogging that I mentioned, you can do that in between commercials or even while you're watching TV. You don't necessarily have to set aside special time for it. It's difficult. Start with 5 minutes and work up from there. Same with exercises. Body weight exercises do not require special equipment. There's free options from Hybrid Calisthenics as well as other YouTubers. And you start with 5 minutes. You start with 5 minutes, and where that gets you is where that gets you. You can build up over time. It is far better to establish the habit than it is to go gung ho and all out on your first week, because then it's not sustainable. But that's my view. I'm not saying that the barriers aren't there. I'm not saying that the barriers aren't real. I'm just saying that some of the ones that she mentioned, there are some workarounds for. They're not necessarily ideal, but you can still make efforts. You know, you can still make efforts towards being healthier.
I would like to honor the bravery that it took for you to say that.
So the comment she's responding to says, it honestly makes me so frustrated how overweight people think the body positive just belongs to them and that they get to make the rules there is, and then it cuts off there.
Finally, someone is sticking up for thin people. Body positivity wouldn't exist without the work of fat people. There would be no need for any body liberation movement if not for the discrimination that specific body types face. And then it killed me because you kept going and said this. I'm going to have to hit you.
So the comment continues, oh no, this isn't the continuation of that comment, but it's something else. It says, no rules. You guys are the ones creating a toxic and unsafe environment for everyone. Please remember, the world doesn't revolve around you.
You with an Uno reverse. Sorry. I know this is a difficult pill to swallow, but body positivity does not center individuals who have not faced issues around discrimination specifically because of their body type or their age or their skin color or all of it. That doesn't mean that you can't benefit from that work. Feeling uncomfortable or insecure in your skin is incredibly valid and does not know a body size, but it's not the same as facing discrimination. And you know how I know? Just reflect on how you would feel internally about yourself if you woke up tomorrow and you were suddenly 75 pounds heavier.
So, a couple things. I got really curious. I'm actually thinking about doing a video. I'd probably make it sometime this summer on the true history of the body positivity movement, because a lot of people have said, oh no, it's started with the focus on those with disabilities and accepting your body and that sort of thing. Others say no, it was started by fat black femmes. And when I looked into it, there's actually a little bit of both being true. It actually, if we want to go back to the earliest origins of, like, I guess what you could say is pre-body positivity, it actually started towards the end of the 19th century when they were getting rid of corsets, and there was this pushback against like that perfect female silhouette that was popular in a lot of um, female clothing during the 1800s. And that I would need to go into that. But it was also tied in to NAFA and the people that were trying to garner acceptance of fat women being beautiful. And this was again started by the guys, the men, that wanted to not be made fun of for liking overweight women. So that was also, it's it's not a single line. The body positivity movement, from what I've seen, from what I've looked into, is not a single line. There were actually a couple of different branches of it, and that all follow under the same umbrella, but there's different thread lines running through. Um, so those are there is some overlap here. Sometimes the same uh, similar concepts can fall under the same name and progress on a similar timeline. It does not necessarily mean that one was the true start over the other. But that's something I really would like to explore. I think this summer is maybe doing a little bit of a deep dive on the history of the body positivity movement. Let me know if you're interested in that, because it's something that I wouldn't mind exploring, and I'd be curious to hear your opinions. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead, and I got caught up in her idea of like the history of the body positivity movement. Oh, right, discrimination. That was the other thing that she wanted to talk about. It's about discrimination. So that is, so at least from what I've seen so far, and this, please don't take this as like hard evidence because I have not reached that point in the body positivity movement timeline that I've looked into, because I've just kind of it's been a cursory glance. But from what I've seen, the body positivity movement was more about social acceptance. It was never about discrimination until just recently. That's what I've been able to garner. The talk about it being against discrimination and stuff is a relatively new topic compared to the overall history. Whatever, you know. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and move on. We're gonna watch one more video, and then we're gonna watch one more TikTok, sorry, and call it a video.
Who is saying that?
Okay, so before we actually, I want to back up and see what the caption said. So this is something that she's stitching, and it says, "Why is it okay for plus-sized girlies to have stores like Torrid, but we can't have petite brandy?"
Who is saying that? That entire comment section. I'm so small. I'm so small. I'm just so tiny. I genuinely thought we were past the point of having to explain why plus-size clothing retailers exist, but like 8% of fashion brands offer plus-size options. 8%. And near
Okay, just before she talks about carrying smaller options, there's a difference between average and being small. Some people are just tiny, and clearly you're jealous about that because that's what's really reading through on me is that you find it offensive that she wants something for petite, which both means short and skinny women. They need clothes. I don't understand for someone that's all about like not body shaming or whatever. Like it feels kind of like you're shaming them. You realize that average sizes may not fit the very tiny and the very short, right? You get that, right?
all of that 8% carry some type of smaller size option. 8% of shoppers are a size 14 or less.
You say most of that 8% carries a smaller size option. Would it carry the very small though? Would I don't understand. Some people are very petite, that even a small is big on them. And they can still be a bit of a healthy weight. They're just short and thin. That's all. Like I don't like you it's funny that you're acting like, "Oh, well this has all these options." That's like me saying I don't understand why plus size people are complaining most lines carry an extra large or a 2X. Do you see how that's not getting at the issue? Because there are people when we're talking about plus size clothing, there is 3X, 4X, 5X, 6X. On the other side, for the petite, the pant legs can be too long. Sometimes even the smalls are not small enough. I don't get that. And when you're like even the plus size brands carry smaller sizes, they carry smaller sizes as in a size 10, not as in a size 00. We can argue about whether that a size 00 is healthy or not. I think size 00 can be healthy depending on how tall someone is.
Larger in the US. So, like to spell it out, fashion has made it so that plus size shoppers are excluded from the majority of retailers.
So she also has a caption up here that says plus size shoppers simply can't walk into any store to purchase things, whereas small straight size do not come close to experiencing that issue. But just because they can find something that they can fit into doesn't mean that it fits them. Oh my God, the amount of, I mean, don't get me wrong. It started off with a little bit, the girl stitch it that she started this with was very much I don't understand why plus size girls can have this, but we can't. Like, it was a little whiny and it was a little victimy and it was unnecessary. But this acting like her complaint is not valid is just mind boggling to me.
And other retailers saw an opportunity to make money, so they do plus sizes exclusively. And it makes up a really tiny part of the market, almost as tiny as all of you.
I feel like she completely missed the point. This girl looks short. She's clearly very tiny, but not like unhealthy tiny, just very thin. I don't. It's and this person says it's like, girl, every store is your store. Not if she's very small. I'm 5'6", but my grandmother spent her entire life at like 4'10", and she was thin and tiny. She also chain smoked, but that's beside the point. We're talking about clothes. But like she struggled. She had to buy all of her clothes online because she couldn't find anything in stores, even in the petite section, that fit her. I don't fucking understand. I know someone whose daughter still has not cracked 4'10" because she's just tiny. That doesn't mean that she'll fit into anything. Like, I can't. It's so, like, tell me that you cannot want people to accept you and have compassion for you when you can't return that for those on the opposite side of the spectrum. It fucking baffles me. And since we're at this one, I just want to see. So we finished here. You know, I do want to just kind of go through these three real quick, just so that way we can do a full finish next week, because I really would like to be done with the Jock Scientist within this video and the next one, even if they end up being a little bit longer. So we're going to go ahead and do these last three, and then I'm going to call it a video.
For dinner at Chili's. The girl who was serving me was enormous. You know, I think she got freebie meals.
This story is like boring, a waste of my time that I want back, and you'd felt the need to include a derogatory detail about this person's body. And don't fucking pretend like it wasn't derogatory. Enormous derogatory. Let me save you the effort. The story is how this waitress thought that she was serving someone that just looked like Emily Blunt, and then, oh my god, it's Emily Blunt, and she's there in the city filming Looper. Boring fucking story that some publicists thought would make Emily Blunt seem more relatable. And you take it upon yourself to mention the size of someone's body because why? Because I know that Emily Blunt has never waited tables a day in her fucking life. It sucks so much ass, and I promise you, no celebrity would last a fucking day working in the restaurant industry. And how many times do women celebrities complain about their body being the subject of conversation all the time? Like, fuck off. Looper was not
She finishes off by saying Looper was not even that good. Just so you know, I skipped the first one for you guys. It was talking about how kids drop out of extracurricular sports due to pressures of adults. I didn't have anything to add to the video, so I just didn't comment on it. This one, so I remember talking about this with a different, about when I was covering a different creator back when it happened back in October. And someone said, so I saw like a pretty lengthy clip, and my views kind of aligned with the Jock Scientist, surprisingly, on this one. Someone else said that they saw an even longer clip and that Emily Blunt was pressured by the host to kind of say something. It didn't really seem that way to me. I don't know. From what I've seen, it did seem like Emily Blunt was just kind of being a bitch. Like, that's really what it seemed like to me. The Jock Scientist, from the clip that I saw, you know, it was a really boring story about, oh, this woman thought she was serving someone that looked like Natalie Blunt, but oh my god, it was Natalie. That was pretty much the entirety of the story. And there was just like some really egregious, unnecessary comments about this woman's weight. For all intents and purposes, I'll be honest, I kind of agree with the Jock Scientist based on what I've been able to see. I tried to look up for a longer clip of that, and I did not see it. I never saw this when it first aired. But from the longest clip that I've seen, the Jock Scientist's summary of it was fairly accurate. I don't know. Give me your opinions in the comments if you remember this happening, if you remember this clip. If you have found a longer clip that provides more context, please let me know because I would like to see it. But for all intents and purposes, I do agree with the Jock Scientist here.
Not hang out with a lot of male climbers because the conversations are so empty. Because they just talk about this crap. They don't talk about anything real. There's no intimacy there because they're hiding behind this crap. Same thing with
lift weights, cycle, bodybuilding, martial arts, marathon running, ultra marathon running, hiking, CrossFit, boxing, team sports. Genuinely anyone that says blank is my therapy, like, where's that guy with the giant red flag? You know what I'm saying? Hobbies are awesome, and you should have several of them. Like, stay well-rounded. And it's great if one of them is being physically active in some way or another because it has benefits for your brain and your body. But what I see with men especially is that hobby will displace any inner work, any type of healing journey, and be the basis of all of their friendships. So you want to talk about...
Okay, we're gonna finish listening to her. And I want to be clear, I'm not trying to be a pick-me here. I think that stems, like, the not having deeper conversations, not having that emotional inner work exploration sort of thing. Like, you guys talk about diet culture a lot, but let's talk about, you know, toxic masculinity culture where boys don't cry. A lot of the adult men that we see, even in my generation, a millennial generation, while that was when, like, the letting men talk about their feelings, letting them explore themselves emotionally and stuff, and letting them express their emotions was a relatively new movement. Boys don't cry, boys don't talk about feelings and stuff was still very prevalent even while I was growing up, and women, or not women, but men that cried were seen as weak in a lot of spaces. And I'm sure that carries over into adulthood. So they have kind of been socialized to not talk about their feelings and not talk about anything but the tasks that they like doing. And because if you get into a negative space that isn't based in anger, it's seen as less masculine. Now, that whole attitude has shifted in recent years, but that doesn't change the fact that that's the mentality that they grew up with. So it's one of those things where it's like, yes, you can criticize that part of male friendships and friendships with men. And to trust me, I can even kind of understand that because that was the way it was in a lot of gaming spaces where like the friendships never grew because that was the only point of conversation and there was just a difference of communication and those friendships often dropped off for me. But I don't like the positioning that it's like, oh, these men that do all these physical activities are just shallow and bland and boring. Which is where I feel like this is getting now. Granted, there's like 13 seconds left of this, so maybe there's more nuance added to it. But it kind of feels a little bit unfair. Especially if depending on where they live, that whole toxic masculinity mindset could have been more prevalent than in other spaces, and maybe that's the only way they were allowed to connect with others. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's the only possibility. They could just be fairly shallow people, but I think it's worth keeping in mind.
The male loneliness epidemic, it's not because girls won't date you. It's because your friendships begin and end with the fact that you go to the gym. It's kind of boring. Gotta do some reps for mental and social health too, you know?
So, do some reps for mental and social health too. I agree with that. The male loneliness epidemic stemming from women not dating you, and that's not actually the case. I agree with that. I agree that um, the male loneliness issue does not stem from women unwilling to date men. I think there's a lot more to it than that, primarily what I mentioned earlier about the way men were socialized, especially before the most recent generations. There was no homogenization, I guess, for social interaction between boys and girls. So when they grew up to be men and women, that divide is still there. And I think that divide would naturally just still be there based on different communication ways between communication differences between men and women. But I don't think it would be as gaping as it is um, should if other things had taken place. But at the same time, I really don't like how this is shitting on men that their only point of conversation and their only point of friendships is that they go to the gym. It's a shared hobby. Sometimes, and I think this is even just generally an issue with a lot of friendships. In general, granted, I've never been great at making friends because I'm naturally a loner. But even if I do have friends, the friendships tend to be small in scope and focus on that third leg. So there's you, there's the friend, and then there's the interest that's shared, and that's your connection. That's the third leg of the friendship. So men having the similar hobbies of different working out in different physical activities, that's their third leg. And there's not a huge range of options there for conversation. So it's one of those things. There's definitely things that could happen to improve friendships, I'm sure, but it kind of also depends on how satisfied those men are. Maybe the men that are working out and have friends strictly at the gym and stuff are satisfied with their social lives, and it's other men that have issues with it, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. I just I don't really like the shitting on the way men engage in hobbies versus the way women engage in hobbies. I think both are valid. And I think the way that men engage in friendships and women engage in friendships are different but also very valid. And I just don't like the shitting on those differences. But that's me. So let me know what you thought of this video, what you thought of these more recent TikToks, especially this last one. I'm very curious to hear about your opinion on that. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.